Welcome to my first video in the year 2024, where I had to show you a really destroyed Audi SQ5 headlight, which is a defect on most cars, and how you can do it yourself and save money. You can see for yourself what happened to the plastic on the headlight. It cracked and is ready for repair. And on most headlights, this happens from the field, not inside the headlight. This is how it looks after our repair, which you can do yourself if you carefully follow all the steps that we will do. You don't have to be a professional to do this. Just be patient and trust me. You will be surprised what you will achieve. For the sake of safety, the most important thing is to keep the headlight away from the rest of the car. And on this car, it is enough to unscrew 3 Allen screws, and you are ready for your job. It is not necessary to remove the bumper on the car. It is enough just to pull the headlight forward and fix it so that it does not move during sanding. I use a harder block for that. Then your headlight will not move and you will not damage the rest of the car during sanding. I use something like this when I don't take the headlight off the car. You find a suitable place to get stuck, and that's it. You're ready to take the next step. Here I will tell you that even with a hard paper pad, you can make a headlight so that you don't end up with pigtails, which many of you have problems with, and I will show you where you all go wrong. When installing the disc, all or most of the holes must match your machine, because these holes are used to collect sanding dust, and the paper should also match your disc that is on the machine. Here we will start sanding with 120 grit paper, because it is known that Audi headlights are very hard, and it is necessary to start with this grit if you do not want to struggle while removing the first layer of damage on your headlight. You cannot remove the first layer with the machine lying down. You can see that nothing happens. The machine must be tilted at an angle of 40-45 degrees in order to remove the damage as soon as possible without heating the plastic from sanding. It is not necessary to press the machine. My advice is to let the machine work by itself and work on smaller parts. Do not go to the entire headlight. Work part by part until the color is completely matte. When you got the entire headlight matte, it looks very ugly now, and many people think that you have done more damage than good. But that's not the case. You removed about 70% of the damage, and with the next paper, which is 220, we are going to remove the remains of the 120 paper and other damages. But now we keep the machine constantly placed with the whole surface on the headlight, and that's how we make all the following papers that we will use. It is very important. Do not tilt the machine and do not press it, and let the machine work by itself. It is also important to note that with each subsequent paper, it is done longer than the previous paper, and make sure that you constantly clean the paper from your sanding in order to have the best possible result. Here you can see the so-called tails left by the paper, but don't worry about it. You will see why. You must have small marks, but watch out for small marks from the paper on this grain because the paper is too rough. You must not have this with paper of 600 grain or even with 400. You must have a matte color without any traces of sanding. Okay, now we move on to the next granulation 280. And as you can see, we use the cheapest paper here. But after this granulation, make sure you use better quality paper. As you know, I use Kovacs papers, and I really have no problems with them. They don't wear out quickly, they don't leave marks, they have a great finish. When we have finished with 280 grain, we switch to quality papers from 320 to 2000. As you can see, we don't skip much graining, and we won't have a problem with the finish. I won't show you how all the papers work, but each paper leaves behind an incredible transparency, and there is no need to go over 2000. You can, but believe me, there is no need for that. There are 320, 400, 500, 600, 800, 1200, 1500, and 2000 grain papers. And look at their sanding surface, because these papers are made from a special ore that only they have the right to. Because they have signed a long-term contract with the industry, that's why there are no papers that someone managed to copy. Let's get to work. And already after 320 granulations, you will see a huge difference in the transparency of the plastic, and you will see how much you have shredded your sanding marks. Sanding dust comes off very easily from these papers, and the paper must be clean to have a 100% effect. Many people ask me how much paper is needed to make one headlight. What you see are all used papers that have already worked on headlights before, which means that you need one new paper of each grain size, with which you can make from 3 sets of headlights to 5 or 6, depending on the hardness of the headlight itself, as well as the damage on them. Before we continue with the 400 paper, you can see how much the marks, i.e. the tails that were created from the previous paper, have reduced, and that they are much smaller and closer to each other, which means that each subsequent paper will remove more and more of those tails, and when we finish with the 600 paper, those traces will no longer be there. In case you have traces left, go back to 400 grit until you have crushed those traces. Let's get closer and see that the traces have disappeared exactly as I told you at the very beginning of the video. That's why I'm telling you to watch the video carefully, don't skip the steps, and you'll have a perfect result at the end and you'll save a lot of your money. After we have finished all the granulations, to remind you, 120, 220, 280, 320, 400, 600, 800, 1200, 1500. This is our finish after 2000. And I am ready for polishing, which is also important to do so that you don't have any marks from the polishing machine. Always, but always for the first coat of polishing, I use a roto machine with wool in combination with coarse paste. I have been using Ewocar products for a long time and I am very satisfied with them. With polishing as well as with sanding, I work part by part. I do not do the whole headlight at once, and then I am sure that I will remove all traces of sanding. I polish without pressure by changing the speed of the machine. When I'm done with the roto machine, I switch to the dual machine and switch to the microfiber pad, which I combine with another coarse paste to remove traces of wool and have the best possible finish before the final anti-hologram paste itself, which I use in combination with a medium sponge. After that, your headlight should look much better than before. As a protection on these headlights, I used Guyon ceramic for plastic, but the best protection is a high-quality PPF film, and then you are protected for many years. It's time for the final paste with a medium sponge, and that's it. If you followed all the steps, you'll have the same result as mine. You can restore the headlight as it was and protect it with ceramic or PPF foil. I hope that I have helped you again, and if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to write in the comments what you would like to see this year on my channel and that I forget to tell you. And many have noticed that my channel was stolen by hackers and changed all the packaging, but we managed to restore everything, and we are here for you again. In the near future, I was planning to maybe hold online classes regarding grinding and polishing, but I don't know what price would suit you. The classes would be an hour long where those who pay could attend live and ask questions that interest them. You can also write to me about it in the comments. See you soon. Big greetings to everyone.